Do you have blocks around money? Are you an empath or a light worker or somebody who wants to be of service to others and you just can't charge what you're worth because you feel guilty? I'm going to be covering a few different things. One, what money actually is, some of our limiting beliefs and programming around money, why historically light workers, energy workers, spiritual people resist making money, and finally, how receiving the amount of money that you're worth for your gifts actually shifts the collective and the planet in general. So stay tuned. My name is Adam. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. I'm a freedom and clarity coach. I help people get freedom in all areas of their life, and I help them get clarity by seeing the bigger picture as far as what's going on within themselves and the world. Now, before we get started, I have a few more breakthrough calls that I'm doing. These are 30-minute calls where we go over your vision for your life, the things that are blocking you, stopping you, limiting you, and then some steps you can take to finally claim your power and live the life that you want. Now, let's get started. I, for so long, have had such an issue with money. And I know this is very common for most of the people I know who are compassionate people or service-oriented people, and even who aren't. Money is just one of the biggest teachers on the planet, period. I have always felt very guilty when it came to receiving anything at all, but particularly money. I grew up in a pretty middle class family. My dad did relatively well enough, not like we weren't rich, but we did all right, and I got a lot of the things that I wanted as a kid. But as my dad he has dementia now, and he's not so much in charge of the finances. My mother is, and as my mother has, I've seen where my scarcity consciousness comes from. Because even though my mother grew up with money, my mother also came from a lineage of Jewish people who struggled a lot. They suffered and they toiled. My great grandma actually came here from Russia, and she had lived on like a lumber mill. They had incredible wealth. They had servants at the time, but when she was about 5 years old, this was before World War II, they were going around and rounding up the Jews and persecuting the Jews, and so her family had to get out. And they had to leave, and they had to come to America on a ship, and they went from being really wealthy to being dirt fucking poor. And I don't think she ever really got a lot of money ever. She worked her whole life here. She was the matriarch of the family. She had a number of children. She had a number of siblings. Some of her family ended up dying in the Holocaust that didn't come over. And there was just a struggling kind of energy to that lineage. And that's what I inherited from my mom. And my mom has that too, fear and scarcity. Let me know if you can relate to this. So I have been broke my entire life, completely broke my whole life, my whole adult life. And so I've had a lot of opportunities to look at what this stuff is. So I want to start with what money even is to begin with, because this can be one of the most empowering reframing of perceptions. Okay, money at this point doesn't really exist in the physical. It's mostly just numbers on a computer screen. It's not backed by anything anymore. I'm not an expert on this, but I read enough. But essentially what you need to know is it's just an energy. Money is an intermediary source for a giving and exchanging of energy. Money in and of itself is completely neutral. It's like anything. It's what you do with it. It's the intention behind it that makes it good or bad or whatever it is. So many of us attach these sort of struggly scarcity belief systems to it. We demonize anybody that has anything because we label them all as selfish, horrible people. And there are some spoiled brats who didn't do anything to make their money, but a lot of the people who have a lot of money work their fucking ass off for it. So it's important to understand, essentially, money is nothing. It's a reflection of you. It's a reflection of your own belief about your own worth within yourself for what you came here to offer the world. So check in and see where you've demonized money. and look at how that reflects where you've demonized yourself, your abilities, and your gifts. It's simply a piece of energy. And for right now, it's what we're using. It's just part of the game of life. It's just what we use to mark the exchange of value. It's all made up, essentially. Everything on some level is made up. It's all a figment of the giant collective imagination. It doesn't matter what source kind of created it to begin with. You make it what you want to make it. That's your power. That's taking your power back. What are a few of the limiting beliefs around money? There's a whole bunch of them, but let's start with money is the root of all evil. A lot of people have that. Money is the root of all evil. Is that true? Is money the root of all evil, or is evil the root of all evil? And is there even evil on a higher plane to begin with? Money can be used to control people. Money can be used to limit and restrict people. But money can also be used to help people, to set people free, to create better circumstances, scenarios, and situations for them. It can be used to bring them food, to bring them medicine, to bring them anything. Money is not the root of all evil. The person behind the money is the root of whatever they are. Money is inherently neutral. What's another common belief around money? One of the biggest revelations I ever had was when I realized that money and work are directly linked. So if you have an issue with money, I would invite you to look at what issue you actually have with working. Because you can't really separate them very easily, right? Because money doesn't grow on trees. Money doesn't come for free. It doesn't. And a lot of people in the law of attraction, groups will act like money just falls from the sky. And if you believe it and you feel it, it'll just show up. Sorta. An opportunity might show up, and then you have to do the work and take the action to actually make the money. No one's going to pay you for just lying in a bed and taking a fucking nap. You actually could build a business where you're funny and humorous and interesting enough to get people to give you donations for doing things like lying in a bed all day. I've actually thought to do that. But you still have to build the website, put out the videos. You still have to take all these actions to actually make money doing that. It doesn't come for nothing. It comes energetically for nothing. It doesn't come in the physical for nothing. So what we do is we link like money and work and how much energy that's going to require. I always would get really fucking angry when it came to making money because I was so tired. I was always so physically exhausted my whole life. I had horrible chronic fatigue from the time I was very little. So because I didn't have much money, I didn't have much energy, any expenditure of it would wear me out. So I kind of knew I couldn't make a lot of money because I couldn't do much to get it. And so then I started getting mad at the whole system. I started getting angry at money and at work. And what that brought up in me was a lot of beliefs and frustrations at the system and how hard a lot of the jobs on this planet are, and they are. People bust their asses doing horribly difficult things for $10, $15 an hour. It's not right. But the problem is when you hold on to the anger at some of that level of working, you're blocking money from coming in an easier fashion because the resentment and the anger is a resistance and it's pushing something away. And it causes you to go, fuck this. And it makes sense. But is that how you want to continue to be? Because you're going to shut it out. So one of the biggest revelations I've had is forgiveness of the system, of having to work so hard for so many years at jobs that didn't pay me very well and wore me out, and uncoupling the connection between work and money. And historically, if you look, the past many hundreds, thousands of years, It's just even now where we can do things more where we use our mind and use our emotions to make money instead of everything being this deep level of physical toil. And so the other thing that you might want to look at, there's many, but just in this video that I'll point out, is a connection to your ancestry. What are your ancestral beliefs around money? What are the ancestral experiences in your lineage and in your DNA around money? They probably had to toil and work their asses off for not very much, which just can shut the body down and shut your cells down and just cause you to be like, it's hopeless. It's not anymore. The whole paradigm is shifting, but these are good, important things to look at. Why historically do people resist money? And there's many aspects to this. One of them is what I just mentioned about having to work so hard for it. But the other that I want to point out specifically for empaths, lightworkers, spiritual people is concepts around service to others and being spiritual. There is so much programming in religion, Christianity, Judaism, Buddhism, all of it, around being of service to others for nothing. Like if you're going to be of service to others, you expect nothing in return. Now that makes sense on an energetic level. It makes sense on a don't be attached to the outcome, just give what you can because you love somebody level. But so much of religion and spirituality demonized the individual. And there's no distinction between putting yourself first and being some cold, hard, selfish prick. There's very little distinction in sort of the collective perspective around these things. And if you don't put yourself first, if you don't fill your own cup, if you don't have energy, you have nothing to give. The other point to make is a lot of monks and the medicine men and women and tribes like back in the day lived differently. They didn't have to go out and work hard to make the money. The medicine men and women, from my understanding, and I'm not an expert on this, were well taken care of by the rest of the tribe, and they were left to just use their spiritual gifts. And the monks were very well taken care of. They were very well taken care of. They had food brought to them. They had everything that they needed brought to them. We don't live in that world now. We can't attain spiritual enlightenment and not work a job. It's a different paradigm. And we're also in a different energy where we're learning how to come out of separation. And selfless service to others at the expense of yourself is still part of separation. Yes, you want to give without expecting something in return. You want to give from your heart purely. Yes, you do. But that's more of like when I give, I just let it go. But I also know I'm worthy of receiving, because when you're unconditionally giving, you're also unconditionally receiving unless you're blocked. And receiving is the most important thing to making money. So how can you unconditionally give but unconditionally receive? How can you give and also understand that you're worthy of being compensated for your energy? Where are the belief systems that you're not a spiritual person if you make money? That's the biggest crock of shit ever. And I would invite anyone watching this to completely neutralize all of those belief systems right now. They do not serve you. They do not serve anybody. Because if you're not offering your gifts and you can't get paid for, if you can't get paid for your gifts, you can't offer them. You're just going to be relegated to working some shitty matrix job and stuffing your gifts down and burning your body out, because your energy as a soul might be infinite. As a human, it's very, very finite. It's very important to look at where these things come from historically. We're not supposed to just give everything away. It's not selfish to take care of yourself at all. Dead people, because they're sick, because they wore themselves to the bone trying to help everybody else and never took care of themselves, don't give anything to anybody anymore. Now, finally, how do we shift the collective and the planet by receiving money for our gifts? This is a really important point to make. Because up until this point, generally, to make a lot of money, you kind of had to work for the system. You kind of had to work for the matrix. And the best case example was Hollywood, generally. I mean, yeah, doctors get paid well. I don't want to get too much into that. Hollywood. That's why everyone wants to be a movie star or a rock star, because that's where you could play and create and be connected to your emotions and your consciousness and have fun and get paid well. But the whole thing's freaking hijacked in so many ways. We're shifting the paradigm. If you don't utilize your gifts, your God given gifts, your spiritual gifts for others, and do well for yourself, all you're doing is reinforcing a loop of scarcity. So you're actually not being that much of service to other people, because you're like, if you want to be of service to people, you got to starve and be a starving artist and a broke ass healer and all these other things. So how are you really helping them? Because they're going to live in strife and toil, etc. So by you claiming what you're worth and understanding that you deserve to be compensated well for that, you're shifting the paradigm. And what you're doing is one by one, as we do this, more and more people access the collective consensus possibility to get paid well for what they love. And that is how everything on the planet shifts drastically when we step into our power, into our light, and get paid for what we're worth. And the other thing to understand is, yes, sometimes it's good to give things away to people who can't afford it. But are you in a position to do that? Some people are. I know some amazingly gifted healers who charge very little, but they've made their money in other ways. They're not destitute. They're not poor. They're not broke. They're not desperate. And like, I gotta give it away. They are okay. And so if you don't have a lot of money, you can charge more for your gifts. And then when you get to a point where you're very abundant, then you can make those decisions, but you're not betraying yourself first for others. You're not putting others before you. It's a mutually interdependent loop where we're helping others and ourselves. There's no separation anymore. No one's excluded. Everyone's included for the highest good of all. So I would invite you to just look at where you have these beliefs around money, where you can reframe your perceptions, and how you can step into your power, into your light, and understand that you receiving a large amount of money for your gifts is like the highest act of self-love in a way that you can attain in the game of life that we're playing right now, until it all shifts. At some point in the future, we may not use money anymore, but right now we do. So let me know what you think. Please like and subscribe to the channel. Let me know if you have any revelations or breakthroughs. I have an energy clearing in the description below that can help you with some of these blocks. Other than that, I appreciate you all very much. Thank you. Until next time, and peace.